Fooled you suckers. You thought this was going to be a MoFi thriller review? No, man. 40 years ago, I wasn't listening to Michael. I was into The Who. It was meaty beaty, big and bouncy. The kids are all right. Who's next? That's what was in my ears 40 years ago. Toronto Maple Leaf Gardens, December 12th, I think it was. Got my RCA mono VCR, got my Unican VHS cheap ass cassette ready, hit play and record, and watch the simulcast. And that's where I was 40 years ago. Some of my friends, mostly female actually, had the Thriller LP, and I mean, right from the Paul McCartney duet with Michael with the girl is mine, the doggone girl is mine, yeah. And I don't know, to me, I like the Off the Wall album. I was in grade 5 when that came out, 1979. And when I was a little kid, we used to watch the Jackson 5 cartoons on a Saturday morning. And cute little songs, and that's the way it was back then. But anyways, yeah, and I think I mentioned this in an earlier video where I just couldn't really care less. But now 40 years later, still not interested in it. But I did get that in the mail from my mom last week, and I know I've mentioned this in a few videos and not really going to get into too many heavy sordid details, but yeah, my old man and I had a shitty relationship, the last 17, 18 years. And I guess a year or so ago, when I was working with my son Abraham on his Camaro, we were dropping the engine in, and I had the transmission disconnected, obviously, and out of the way. And the whole idea was drop the motor in, and then we should be able to at least get the spline lined up, and then I crawl underneath and twist the thing into place. Now, we're doing all this on the ground, mind you. Well, we didn't put two and two together and say, hey, dummy, why don't you just take the transmission completely out of the car and just drop the motor in nice and easy, and then pay somebody to put the fucking transmission in. Okay? At the time, my son and I, we only had one goal in mind, is get those fucking motor mount bolts lined up. Those of you car freaks know exactly what I'm talking about. So I call my old man. I mean, even though he hasn't been near a car in at least 10, 15 years, at least, he could say something to me to say, you know what? Did you guys think about taking the transmission out of the car? And then, it would have just clicked, No, the last conversation I had with him was over a year ago. And basically he told us, why don't you sell that fucking car? It's a piece of shit. It's fucking, I'm like, that's not why I called you, old man. I just thought maybe you could say something to us to say, hey, dummies, why don't you try this, right? And so that's how that conversation went. And at the end of the day, my son and I were so pissed off. We got that fucking motor in, and I wound up taking the transmission out of the car anyways, because we called the transmission shop, and that's exactly what they told us to do. Anyhow, so that's a quick one of many nasty stories I got with my old man. I mean, there's not enough YouTube footage or time, but anyhow. One thing I did get, though, from him was that box set, and that's the one I talked about in the last video. Well, now that it's here, right, as I said before, it's not going to sound as good as my SACDs that I downloaded from Acoustic Sounds a few years back. So the ones that I do have are the Steve Hoffman analog production reissues, the Nat King Cole story, and then I forget what the other Nat King Cole one that he did that I have. But anyways, they sound amazing. But one thing that I was surprised with was, so my old man used to pull these things out only at Christmas time, and as you can see, hopefully I don't fuck this up on the camera, that's side 1, that's side 12, And I've seen a lot of these double LPs, triple LPs, or in this case, 6 LPs, where they were made for the stacking turntables. You know, basically you'd put everything all on one side, play it next, so it would go like that. And the first time I saw one of these was a friend lent me that Quadrophenia first US pressing, and I'm like, what the hell? Why is it 1 and 4 and 2? Oh, for the old LP flippers. So honestly, these things are in mint condition. I mean, yeah, there's a couple of scuffs on the box and all that stuff, but I had Mike over at InGroove, one of his guys, e-clean all 6 LPs. And even beforehand, I took a brush to one of them because it was just dust on the top. And it didn't sound bad, but I knew a good e-cleaning, and because back in the day, they used to spray that fucking record cleaner shit on here that smelled like vodka. And my old man used to do that, and of course we had a BSR turntable with a ceramic cartridge. And you would think that a piece of crap like that, and God knows what, there's no scratches on here. And I remember as a kid, there'd be people smoking and shit, and then everybody's of course drinking and stuff like that. And these LPs would be just kind of sprung out, on the table or whatever, right? And yeah, I mean, it's 50 plus years old. I think probably 52 years old, 51 years old. And again, this is the only LP set that survived because it was never part of that garage flood that my mom had a few years back. And so listening to it, it's all mono, but you could tell that the pressings are good. I mean, these are at least not 180 grams, but at least 150 to 160 because they're not light and they don't bend like a lot of usual 70s LPs do. It's a pretty stiff pressing. And again, with the Ortofon Quintet, the MoFi preamp, outer groove to inner groove, there's no distortion. Now, the quality of the sound quality varies from track to track. I might probably do a comparison, maybe the Christmas song and maybe like Route 66 or Mona Lisa. Just do a back to back between the DSD download that I have from Acoustic Sounds and this thing. I know the DSD is going to wipe the floor with these, but I wanted it more of a keepsake because really it's the only fucking thing I got from my old man, so whatever. There's an incident that we had with a toolbox, which is another one of those nasty stories that I don't want to get into, but anyhow, trying not to make the video too personal, but I figured I'd throw the clickbait in there and then tell you guys what it was really about, because that guy is no comparison to Michael Jackson. He's way better. And yeah. And the other thing I got in the mail last week, and I'm sure everybody else has, is Music Direct catalog. So from this here, and again, a lot of the stuff hasn't been released yet. A lot of the stuff was on last year's back page of the catalog, which still hasn't been released yet. But definitely anything they release of Springsteen, I will buy on DSD only. With the Joni Mitchell stuff that's going to come out, I'm probably going to buy everything on SACD except Court and Spark. That's always been like my favorite because it reminds me of when I was a little kid and you would hear Help Me and Raised on Robbery on AM radio all the time. You'd hear it on my old man's car or, going to a hockey practice with one of the coaches or something. It was always on the radio. And that album as a whole, from track 1 to whatever, track 10, every single song on it's good. You would think I'd say Blue, but I like Blue mainly for the, some of the tracks that are on there, like California, and the what I still call the tribute to Canada song, right? Um, but no, I'll get the rest of that on SACD definitely. So yeah, and again, there's it's not just the MoFi stuff that's in here. I mean, they also, they have. I know they sell analog production stuff. They have to, right? And there's all kinds of cool stuff in here. And yeah, and as I've said to you guys before, I'm always going to be on the MoFi side of things. And I see James Taylor greatest hits. Maybe. It's a DSD, whatever. So yeah, one other thing I was going to cover quickly in this was the Capital Audiofest wrap up. Basically, Thursday night was at the bar, Friday night was at the bar, Saturday night was at the bar. Actually, I met my wife at the bar on Saturday because she'd been touring DC, or the last of our DC tour she did on her own. And then she just waited for me over there because, easy for me to find her. Plus, they had a Starbucks there too, anyway. Thursday night at the bar, I met with Greg from, I think his YouTube channel is Audio Analyst. He's the dude with the brown chair and the, easy, relaxed, telling all kinds of stories and things like that. Greg actually, super guy, cool guy to talk to. Met up with, I think it was the Granite loudspeakers. I think they were Acorn Acoustics or something like that. I know I put pictures in there of the dismal video that I slapped together for you guys 2 weeks ago. Met that guy. Who else did I meet at the bar that night? Oh yeah, Andrew Jones came downstairs finally, and just as the bar closed, so you couldn't even get a beer, and we all shot the shit with him and stuff like that. So Thursday night and it was mainly a mixer for attendees, and Gary Gill, who I give a huge shout out to for him and his crew that organized this thing, put on a really good show. The Gishelli Labs folks for putting up with me, visiting them 3 days in a row. And another one was, as you guys already saw, was the Black Ice video with Jared and Jamie. Shout out to them for letting me do the video with them Sunday morning. And a big shout out to Roy Hall and Boris of Amped Amplifiers and Preamps. Roy Hall, Music Hall turntables. Had a nice drink of Macallan 12-year-old at lunchtime on Saturday there with him. And then I came back at 6 o'clock and had some vodka with Boris. And then Roy drove us back to the hotel room. And no, he was not inebriated. He was stone sober because, he knows better. And so that was a good time. And Friday night, Von Schweikart room, terrible hosts, honestly. Greg was spinning some really awesome King Crimson, ELP, and some other stuff on the Von Schweikart speakers and whatever high-end equipment they had in there. And the room, all the big rooms, like I said before, they sounded like, not crap, but they didn't sound great to me. I thought the big rooms at Expona were done a lot better and, did more justice to the equipment and the speakers. But the small rooms, to me, were the outstanding ones. Gershman Acoustics, both they were great hosts. We went in there and I think it was on Friday in the morning, and we shot the shit with them, and then we came back later for the harp player whose LP I bought. Later on, I missed Annette Bisson's performance. I think it was Saturday around 5 o'clock, I guess it would have been. And I missed that one again because I was drinking upstairs in the music hall / amped room, which sounded really good too. But my favorite sound at the show was the Voxative room. I mean, it's $100,000+ worth of equipment in there, but they had the room tuned nicely, and they had everything worked in there. Obviously, Gershman Acoustics, there was all vinyl playback in there. And you know, like I said, it was another really good sounding room. Terry Audio, crazy guy, but very, very nice. The nice thing what I found with Capital Audio Fest was for the 3 days you could actually visit rooms 3 times because it wasn't a huge show, but it wasn't a small show, right? And you know, people were super friendly. You know, I got to hang out with I think it was Audio Ultra. Both Ed and Les. Les has this power conditioning box that he came up with, super light and works great. He gave me a quick demo downstairs where they were. And Ed, who owns Ultra Audio, they're basically kind of like we have here in Scottsdale, LMC Entertainment or Acoustic Designs, where you know they're a storefront, but they also do installation, custom, and all this other stuff. They were really great. I mean, Friday night I met Les. I was heading over there for the mixer, and he said, "Hey man, can I share a ride with you?" Sure, man. So he grabbed all his stuff, and fortunate, just by luck, I had a SUV that night, and so yeah, we hauled over there. And before I went to the bar, you know, he was kind of showing me what they were all about, and then on the way back, Ed gave me a ride and back to the hotel. So it was just stuff like that that was happening. You know, it was for me it was more of a social thing, right? But the other cool room was the Black Ice room with the four Klipsch Forte 4s set up, two straight out and then two on an angle in the back, and it was the Jim Fosgate surround circuit that they were demoing with their monoblock tube amps and their integrated tube amp. And it was just a really nice sounding room. You know, Jared and Jamie put that together really well. And I guess, you know, MoFi again, the Andrew Jones Source Point speakers sounded really great. I wasn't too thrilled about that Hi-Fi Rose steampunk looking integrated amp, but I think that limited what we could really hear out of those Andrew Jones designed speakers. I still call them LS50s on steroids. I mean, come on. But they sounded really good. You know, I mean, if I didn't have my Klipsch set up here, I'd definitely easily throw 5 of those in this room with a couple of subs and call it a day. You know, but I'm happy with what I got. But, you know, and spoiler alert, it's not confirmed yet, but we may be getting Andrew Jones and MoFi to do both a product showcase and an Andrew Jones session, kind of like what we did 3 years ago when he worked with ELAC. So I'm working on the details of that right now, so nothing's official and nothing's confirmed, but they're very interested in doing it. Mike from the In-Groove is going to be involved because they requested that Mike be involved in it. I'm like, hey man, sure, no problem. You know, because again, I have no problem promoting products and people's stuff at one of our club events, right? And it's the least we could do, you know, as the host. And yeah, really, guys, that's basically all I got. You know, kind of a quick video. That's my Capital Audio Fest roundup. My opinions of the box set and the stories behind it. And yeah, let me grab my drink and before I cut this video off. Happy Thanksgiving. Day late and $1 short, but what the fuck. Cheers, folks. Thanks again for watching, and please subscribe. Like and subscribe. Yeah, that's it.